Welcome to the Social Work Rants podcast, providing a platform for social workers to share their stories. The podcast covers a wide range of topics, including mental health, social justice, policy, and the day-to-day realities of the profession. Season 10 will continue to focus on the intersectionality of mental health and finances. Hope you enjoy. Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of Season 10 of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to the podcast. Shout out to everybody who's been following along. Continue to follow the podcast on social media, on Instagram at the Social Work Rants podcast. That is all one word. On Twitter, X at Social Work Rants, and hit that like button on Facebook. Type in the Social Work Rants podcast. And of course, to YouTube, hit that red subscribe button. I see those subscribers climbing up there. So let's keep subscribing and watching. And of course, however you listen to the podcast, rate, share, comment. Download these episodes because they're coming in fast and furious. So we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics to talk about because especially is a lot that's happening. And I see you in these social work streets talking about my ancestors already paid my student loans. God was ready forgiving my student loans, all this stuff. And the government's going to want their money somehow, some way. They're going to get it. And no shade to anybody who makes these posts, but when we're talking about federal dollars and these loans, and they need to be paid off somehow, some way. And when we talk about generational wealth, we talk about just individual wealth and just plain old basic needs and just living in America. Like you don't want to have wage garnishments or anything to jack up your credit. So my guest at this time, Robert Farrington. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks so much for having me. It's a crazy timely topic. I wish it wasn't. I wish it was just like we never had to talk about this stuff, but here we are, right?
No, absolutely. And before we talk, put out the disclaimer: the podcast is not to be used as a substitute for individual therapy or any sort of counseling. If you need help, call 988. If you have a mental health emergency, call 911. If you have a therapist, call your therapist. If you have a psychiatrist, call a psychiatrist. Again, 911, 988, help for anybody out of the United States, whatever your emergency line number is, use that. Is okay not to be okay, but definitely get the help that you need. So yeah, student loans. I mean, I've done a few episodes regarding student loans. Shoot, my loans were forgiven last year, and I still want to help out my people with what they could do regarding student loans. And the new administration coming in fast and furious. Everything they say they want to do, they've been doing it and doing it in a real time. And there's a lot of stuff happening all at once. And in regards to student loans, so in particular, a lot has been happening. So just for people who don't know who you are and what you do regarding the space of student loans, let people know a little bit about you.
Absolutely. So I'm Robert Farrington, and I'm the founder of The College Investor. I started talking about money and education-related topics over 15 years ago, and our team is a news reporting company that we focus on money and education topics. So that could be everything from saving and paying for college to getting out of student loan debt, which is our topic of today. And I talk a lot about financial literacy as well. Big focus on young adults and families, but I also talk to so many adults that are dealing with their student loans and how do we navigate this. And that was actually my journey and why I even started talking about this stuff. So I graduated from college with almost $43,000 in student loan debt. And I actually paid it off in about 2.5 years by side hustling. I was working at Target. I was just getting it done and snowballing that money into it. But I know that's not the story for everybody. And it comes with its own challenges, right? But when I was doing that, I started hearing from people that were like, dude, no one's talking about, all these problems we're having, and no one's sharing that these loan servicers are messing things up, because this was back in
Mm-hmm.
like 2010, 2011, when like, there wasn't a crisis yet. No one was
Mm-hmm.
using that word.
Right.
And so what does any like blogger do, right? I'm out there, I'm writing about it, and people are like following along. And so that's really how I got into the space. And um, I would know way too much about it, but from the policy side to how to help you with your loans, like that's what we talk about a lot at the College Investor. We share it on social. We have our podcasts, our video channels, and here we are. And let's dive in and see if we can help some people that are in the social work space, the public space, or not. If you're just like tangential and you got student loans, like let's see what we can do to help. Hopefully, one, alleviate a little bit of fear, but part two, help navigate it, because I don't know how you feel, but it's like you can control what you can control. There's a lot of noise out there,
Yeah.
but let's
That,
control what we can control, right?
that's why for me, living day in, day out, try to focus on that. And there's a lot of like you're right, there's a lot of noise everywhere about a lot of different things and getting kind of, it's like you want to stay informed, but it's like it's too much info happening
Yeah,
all at once, and it reminds me a lot of pandemic, as this episode literally this week, the 5-year anniversary of the shutdown. So um I find myself already thinking back of like there's a lot of similarities, unfortunately, going back to 2020. So what let's start with PSLF, and number one, can people still apply for it who still for whatever reason haven't?
absolutely. So first off, let's talk about what PSLF is. PSLF is
Mhm.
Public Service Loan Forgiveness. It's the best program that's out there for getting your student loans forgiven. It's not the only one, though. I think a lot of people don't realize there's like 80 different ways to get student loan forgiveness. Public Service Loan Forgiveness is the biggest. Right now, there's over 1 million Americans that are on the path towards getting public service loan forgiveness. And the data says that we're going to see about 100,000 people a year every year for about the next 5, 6 years getting public service loan forgiveness. Why do we know that? Well, it's a 10-year deal. You have to make 120 qualifying payments on your student loans. And then at the end of those 120, you get any remaining balance on your loans forgiven. So what kind of loans qualify? This was a big one, right? So you have to have direct student loans. If you have a student loan from before 2009, you might not qualify unless you consolidated your loans. So that was a big issue. Number two is you have to be on a qualifying repayment plan. This one is a little bit of an issue today, but there are multiple qualifying repayment plans. The big one is income-based repayment. There's also SAVE, which is one of the big asterisks right now because it's on pause. Then you have Pay As You Earn and ICR, which are also asterisks because they're not on pause, but they're not good to go. So there's a few asterisks there. And then, of course, you have to certify your employment, right? This is another one that it baffles my mind how many people screw this up. So, of the people that got denied for public service loan forgiveness, 42% of people didn't fill out the form right. And that one frustrates me because we all went to college. Go fill out the form right. So you have to fill out the form. You got to get your HR to sign it. If you work at a small nonprofit, you need to get your manager, your boss, whoever, sign the dang form, fill it out fully. This means tax ID number. Of the people that didn't fill out the form right, they're not putting the tax ID numbers on. Get it done, fill it out right. Then, of course, you upload it and you can get your loans forgiven. So you asked me, is this still happening right now? Yes. Public service loan forgiveness is still processing. I'm seeing it. It's happening. It's not blocked by the court. So, public service loan forgiveness was created by President Bush in 2007. So, it's been around a while. It was signed into law by Congress. So, the only way that PSLF can go away is if Congress passes a new law. However, if they pass a new law, it's Very, very unlikely, if not impossible, that it would be retroactive. So what that means is if they did pass a law and they're like, we're canceling public service loan forgiveness, it would take effect in the future, say January 1st of 2026, making this up, right? But
Mm,
that means for people right now that already graduated and you already have loans and you're repaying them, you would still be eligible. It would be for new loans that came after whatever date Congress passes the law on. So if you
mm.
have public service loan forgiveness and you're going for it right now, you're safe. Here's where that could be a problem, though. Maybe you want to go back to grad school. Maybe you want to get a master's degree. Well, if you start the process and they ban it at that point in time for future loans, it could make those future loans ineligible. But the risk of existing loans today, very rare.
Gotcha. Well, that's good info, and I know they keep updating the form like very slight, so you got to download whatever the new updated form is and fill it out and get. If you got to hunt
And,
people down and to
hunt
get the
people
form,
down.
that's what I did. I literally had a job that I worked for 8 years, and I needed that. Once I had that done, I knew I could get my loans forgiven and tracked down a couple of people who old coworkers on Facebook and was like, hey, and I saw somebody DM somebody like, yeah, I used to work at HR. And like, I don't remember you working HR, but here, take my form, sign it, and got it done. So you got whatever you could do. But there is a box that says like I know agencies, especially a lot of not for profits, they close down and like what can people do regarding that?
It's really hard. If you had an agency close down and stuff, you can use your tax information. You could write down that they've closed down, but you're counting that the agency also was a qualifying nonprofit and they filed all their tax info. If we're talking like a big nonprofit, it's probably not going to be an issue. But if it's a very small, like nonprofit, you're also hoping that they did everything right on their end. And maybe they didn't. And that could really get you in trouble. So, the better advice is if you get a new job, man, you need to go in there and start getting that paperwork signed like from like day 7, right? Like, do your orientation, get your stuff going, and then like, hey, like let's get this in the books and then like set reminders so that you're doing it. They say to do it once a year, but if you're changing jobs or it's a new job or it's a partial year, like just get it signed. You can never have too many.
Mhm.
Like you could literally certify every month if you wanted to. I don't recommend it. It's just extra paperwork, but you literally can. And if you're worried about your nonprofit, if you're worried about the funding of your nonprofit, especially because we're seeing a lot of budget cuts everywhere. And like if you're feeling that uncertainty, like, hey man, like I don't know what's gonna happen, but can you sign this for this month, sign it for next month, and do that until you feel a little more confident that maybe the contracts are long term or it got renewed or there's money in the bank.
Gotcha. You mentioned the SAVE program that President Biden did, that was on pause, and there's rumblings that is they're getting rid of the SAVE program. Like, what's the latest on that?
Yeah, so SAVE is effectively dead. It's not officially dead, it's effectively dead. And so what I mean by that is, so Biden passed the SAVE plan, and what they did is they did it through rulemaking. So this plan was not created by Congress. Biden took an existing plan and read the language, and they're like, well, it says that like we can kind of set some of these numbers and kind of do our own thing. And so that's what the Department of Education did. They created the rules for the SAVE plan. They lowered the monthly payment to 5% of your income instead of 10 or 15. They shortened the forgiveness to as low as 10 years. And they raised the, amount that you could, that is calculating your payment to 225% of your income. Well, we know state sued and it went before the judges, and the judges said, yes, they overstepped their bounds. This is not the intent that Congress created it. And as a result, it put the SAVE plan on pause, but it also put the related plans that SAVE was based on pause, including the revised pay as you earn, the pay as you earn, and income contingent repayment. Here's the problem. So SAVE it's gone. Like a lot of people thought it was never going to fly to start with. So like it wasn't surprising, but it's going to go away. The problem is if anyone's applied for these plans, is that it's one paper application or one application for all the income-driven repayment plan programs. The Save Plan, IBR, ICR, Pay As You Earn, they're all in one application. Well, the IBR plan is legal. It was created by Congress as well. The only way IBR goes away again is if Congress changes it. But because there's a single application to apply for these plans, the Department of Education put a processing pause on everything. I disagree with the way they're going about it, but I kind of get it, I guess, is that they're like, we don't know what to do. So we can't process these applications because we can't put you in the save plan and violate the court order. But because the application doesn't allow you to go right into the IBR plan necessarily, or people aren't checking the boxes, I don't know if we can process it. And then, like, what if people choose a different plan and that's canceled too? And then do you do extra work, or they don't know what to do? And so they're in the process of breaking apart all the applications and revising it. But what sucks for every borrower is that income driven repayment plan applications are paused and income driven repayment recertifications are paused. So if you're familiar with these plans, they're based on your income and you have to certify that income every year to say, hey, this is what I made. Well, if you are due for that right now during this pause, it's causing a lot of problems. People are having to go into deferment, and it's just making a mess. So there's a lot of uncertainty with that. For borrowers, if you're on the save plan, you're in forbearance, enjoy it, but realize that you're probably going to have to go into the IBR plan sometime later this year, maybe next year. We don't know when it's going to officially be dead, but sometime soon it will be gone.
So what if anything people could do regarding their student loans currently?
Right now, there's so many like different scenarios. So first off, there's 8 million people in the save plan. And if you are in the save plan, you are in forbearance. Enjoy the forbearance. What sucks is if you're a public service worker and you are going for public service loan forgiveness, like we were just talking about, doesn't count. This forbearance does not count to earn you monthly payments towards that 120 payment mark. You can do buyback and buy these back later, which we can get into that. But basically, you cut a check for the months that you should have paid and you can get credit for it. But right now, unless you do that, this time doesn't count. However, for most Americans, like I would say, hey, that's okay. Save your money, build up an emergency fund, pay off other debt, like get yourself squared away, because I think we're all looking at these same economic headwinds. Like we're all a little scared of what this future economy is going to hold. And if I'm not having to make my student loan payments, I want to take that money and make sure I'm squared away as best I can be for the future. So that's one bucket. You got this other bucket of people that are in the IBR plan, ICR plan, pay as you earn plan. You are paying your loans right now. Like your repayments already resumed. You should be getting your public service loan forgiveness credits. So for you, you just need to keep making those monthly payments on time, and you need to be certifying your employment every single year, at least, if not more, for public service loan forgiveness. Get that paperwork signed, get it submitted to your lender. That's all running just like normal, right? Then we have another group of people that have not paid their loans. They didn't even know. I don't know if you saw the headline like a week or two ago where all these people were like, my credit score just dropped by like 200 points because of my student loans, because they totally did not realize that student loan payments had resumed. And we knew this was going to happen after the pause, but remember, we had the payment pause from March 2020 to the end of 2023. But then President Biden gave a 12-month grace period. And so that got us all the way until like October of last year. And then 90 days late on your student loans would have been January and February. And so all these people were like, why am I suddenly 90 days late on my student loans? Well, it's because your payments should have started already. So if you haven't checked your student loans in a while, you're listening to this and you're like, oh man, I haven't looked in a while. Please go log in, check your student loans, know what your repayment plan is, and like make sure you're not getting behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Which could lead to a rabbit hole of, like you mentioned, credit score drops and all kind of stuff
You
happening.
nailed it. And that's what people were seeing. People were in their Credit Karma or they're getting alerts and they're like, what? And their credit scores are tanking because they didn't know. And that's the worst thing you can do is not know or turn a blind eye to this. Like you need to log in. You need to make sure you know what your payments are. Get on track with that.
No, absolutely. Now let's continue that this rabbit hole about the credit and how I started the recording of seeing stuff online about people. And I get it, student loans is beyond frustrating. Like I literally like jacked up a little bit of what I wanted to do financially because I was so obsessed with I didn't get these loans paid off and like taking no bad advice as saw on Instagram 2020 2021 and that's 4 or 5 years later it's kicking me in the behind that I could be using this money instead of paying down debt. Like I could be using it to start investing or continue to invest or invest more money than what I'm currently able to invest. So what happens if like I'm not paying these loans? Like it started besides like they want their money. Like what should people be like prepared to if they want to fight the system and not pay their loans?
Dude, so not paying your student loans are the worst financial mistake you can make. And a lot of people think that like I'm not paying my loans and so like I'm not making that $200 or $300 a month payment. So the average student loan payment's like $330. So that's usually what I'm trying to think about. Yes, I know people have higher payments, but the only way you have a higher payment than that is if you're making like $80,000, $90,000 a year or more. So we need to talk about budgeting. But if you have the average student loan payment or less, we're $300 a month or less. With that being said, if you don't pay your student loans after 90 days, it shows up on your credit score. It's going to tank your credit 100, 200 points, like just gone. All right. After that, you will go to collections after 240 days. And the government has very powerful collection powers that are automatic. So your social security number just gets sent over to the Treasury Department and they're just going to garnish stuff. They're going to take your tax refunds. They're going to take any social security. They're going to take 15% of your social security, 15% of your disability payments. All that goes to the states too. So they'll take your state tax refunds. If you are a state, federal, local worker and you're in the system, the garnishment's going to hit automatically. They're going to take that garnishment and start garnishing your wages. The hard part about this is a lot of that money doesn't even go to your loans. So because you're not paying them, your loans are growing with interest and they're growing with collection costs. And so
Mm,
everyone's like, well, they'll just garnish my wages and over the time that'll pay off my loans. And it's like, no, dude, you're going to garnish your wages and your loan's not going to go down. It's going to stay the same. And they're just going to keep doing this to you for years. And they're going to keep taking your tax refunds for years. And you're probably going to end up losing way more money through the garnishment and offset process than if you just would have paid your loans. So that's part one. They will take a lot of your money and it won't go to your loans. It's just go to collection costs and fees. Part two is because your credit got tanked, a lot of people forget that your credit score today is like the keeper of like so much of your life. And what I
mhm,
mean by that is like your car insurance will go up. Your bank might like close your bank account and you're going to have to go to another bank and or like start using check cashing services because no bank wants to bank with somebody that has a bad credit score. You're going to have to pay larger deposits. What if you need to move? Your landlord's going to look at your credit and
mhm,
they're going to be like, I don't want to rent to this person. So you might have to go live in a really crappy area or pay a higher security deposit because you're going to have to go to places where the landlord's okay with bad credit.
mhm,
Then you're going to look at things like you want your new cell phone. Oh, they're going to want to deposit for that cell phone. Oh, you want to turn on the utilities for your new apartment? Oh, you're gonna have to put a deposit down for that. And pretty soon, you're just like throwing all this money out
mhm.
across your whole financial life because you were trying to avoid like a $200 a month student loan payment. Like, just a stupid waste of money. So that's why I say it's one of the worst financial decisions you can make. And a lot of people don't realize that, like, your student loan payment could be legally $0 a month if you don't make a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those income driven repayment plans.
Right.
So if you're telling me you're not making a lot of money, your loan payment shouldn't be that high. If your loan payment's super high, it's also because you're making a lot of money. And maybe we need to talk about budgeting or lifestyle choices. And I know people don't want to hear that because they're like, well, my rent's like $2,000 a month. And I'm like, well, what are you renting? And they're like, well, I have a 2 bedroom apartment. And I was like, well, go down to a studio. Like, who do you think you are that like you were entitled to a 2 bedroom apartment as a single person because you want a guest room for your dog? Like, I what? Like, no, like let's talk about your lifestyle and go there. So because income driven repayment plans exist, your monthly payment would be capped at 10% of your discretionary income. And your discretionary income is your income after they take out 150% of the poverty line as a buffer. So again, to have a significantly high student loan payment means that you're earning decent money, right? And if you're not paying that, you're going to screw the rest of your life up financially, at least until you resolve it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the budgeting would play a big piece. I mean, living in the United States is just expensive, period. We got inflation going on. You know, I grew up in New York. New York's extremely expensive. Like spent 8 years in Bergen County in New Jersey. That whole county is expensive. So like, it's just expensive to live. Food is going up. Gas, at least gas has gone down considerably, but still, like, it fluctuates depending what's going on in the world, and who the U.S. wants to bully this week. And
Sure.
so like even budgeting sometimes could be just hard, and just come up with that payment to pay.
Budgeting's hard, but the math is the math. And the harder part is what's in our mind and the choices that we're wanting to make as individuals. Because that might mean roommates, that might mean living somewhere else, that might mean unconventional transportation, that might mean a second job at night and my friends are judging me. That might mean various things to various people. Um, but like the math is the math. And again, your student loan payment, the max it would be is 10% of your discretionary income. So when I'm talking about budgeting, I'm like, well, what's the other 90% of your net discretionary income going to? Like, let's talk about it. Because usually the gap, like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years, and the gap I usually see in people's monthly income is usually $100, $200 a month. And that's like, I can't make that gap, can't close it. And those gaps to me are pretty easy to close these days because it's like I can jump on Lyft right now and it sucks. It's not my ideal, but I'll do it. I'll hop on Lyft right now and I can make $100 in the next, 8 hours. I could, and it's just people don't want to necessarily do that. I'm not always saying you got to go cut. Like, man, I also do love to drink coffee and I probably spend $1 a day on coffee pods. I don't go to Starbucks anymore, but man, even those coffee pods, they add up,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Absolutely.
But like we all have our things. But you got to look at your life and say, like, can I cut stuff? Can I earn more? I think a lot of people are a little scared on the earn more side because they think they're going to get judged. I know that feeling. I know that they're like, your friends are like, oh, you're delivering food now for like Uber Eats or whatever. Dude, I'm out here getting $100 today. Like, people need to like kind of get over some of the judgment that they feel inside to try to do some of these things. Because I promise you, being unconventional today and getting out of your debt leads to a better life down the road. And you just got to put in that energy towards it.
No, I like that advice, and I'm sure many of us social workers work 2, 3 jobs anyway. With a private practice, working 9 to 5, doing a private practice, and they side hustling. They coming out with merch, or like doing, got an Etsy store selling stuff like.
Love it. I'm not a fan of the hustle, so that's like right up my alley.
So so yeah, that's definitely relatable. I think the student loan aspect because of the pause for these years. Then all of a sudden, like people kind of forgot about it. Like we just finally getting over COVID. Go back outside. Like kind of like live our lives. We survive this horrible pandemic and go travel, do this and that, and then all of a sudden, like oh snap, getting these emails or these letters like the student loan payment, and it's like $300, $400, or whatever it is, and it's like what?
And I think you nailed it. And I know firsthand from a lot of the people that have reached out. I mean, so many people inflated their lifestyle when they didn't have their loan payment. Not to say everybody did, but I know a lot of people did because they, like you said, after about 6 months of not having a student loan payment, they forgot they had a student loan payment and they started living their life like they had an extra $300, $400 a month in their budget. And then even as their income went up, because a lot of people did have their income go up over the last couple of years, all the prices of the world went up because of inflation. And so, like, the income went up, their expenses went up, but they also totally just deleted the fact that they have a student loan payment coming due.
Has myself being a sandwich generation person, um, and work with fellow members of the sandwich generation who got elders, and elder care is extremely expensive. No long-term care, and with inflation and just caring for loved ones, all this stuff coming out regarding whether Medicaid might get cut, potential Social Security. I think Social Security is a lot of noise right now, but a possibility of that being cut, like to add a $300, $400 payment towards student loans. We got potential kids, like my son's getting like mail from colleges starting to already, and is like 2 years away
Yeah.
from being a freshman in college. And what can somebody who's in that sound generation like do in terms of potential budgeting or what have you to kind of navigate these student loans that's going on currently?
I mean, you nailed it. So first off, you gotta look at the budget. I don't even like budgeting as a word. I like to just say get organized because you gotta pay those student loan bills. That's essential. As you're looking for your parents, it sucks. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of resources out there as well. I know Medicaid's like the big, one in the room, and it can provide for a lot, but there's copays and there are a lot of nuances to it. And holy mackerel, that's like a whole encyclopedia to like navigate that system, right?
Mm,
So you need to understand and start getting educated for your parents. And then I would say for your children, though, realize, share with them the value of college is not everyone needs to go to college. It's also not college at every price point. College is still very valuable today in America up to a certain price. It's like the housing crisis we had. What happened? People overpaid for their house and they lost their house. Well, that's really the heart of the student loan crisis today really is that people overpaid for education and now we're struggling to navigate what that looks like for a variety of reasons. And I don't want to like say anyone's right or wrong there. It's just, I think the colleges charge too much. I think social work
mm,
and public service pays too little. Like there's so
mm,
many reasons there. But like the crux of it is freaking, there's too much cost of college
mm,
and the outcome as a result makes it very hard financially. I'm not trying to put anyone down from any field. I think every field's valuable. I think every kind of outcome of life is valuable, but college does cost money for most people. And you need to help your young adults be very transparent. This is what's saved. This is what I have. And if that's number is zero, that's okay. But make sure that they know that going into the applying choice and that make sure you've shared your story and that you're transparent that like, hey, I took out student loans and here I am as your parent. I'm still paying them. This is what my monthly payment is. Like, as you're going in this, maybe look at alternative options. Again, there's a lot of free ways to get college. And a lot of people are like, again, uncertain about them because they're unconventional. but you could go work at Chick-fil-A, Walmart, Target, Starbucks, 100 different big companies, and they'll pay for your college degree. It'll be from like the University of Arizona online, but I promise you, nobody in the workplace cares that you went to the University of Arizona online. Your degree says University of Arizona and bachelor's of, whatever, business, and that's it. And then after you get your first job, no one cares where you even went to college. No one
Mm,
asks you again, right? After your
right.
first job, no one cares. So you got to tell these young adults that, like, hey, college is still valuable, but not at any price. So then there's also going to community college for 2 years and transferring.
Mm,
In a lot of states, they're starting to offer bachelor's degrees at community college, depending on what course of work you want to go into. So it's a very low cost option. And then, people kind of are scared of the price point of some private universities. But if you're lower income and have no savings for college, a lot of private schools can give full ride scholarships. So don't dismiss them. But you got to do that research to understand it. And one of my rules of thumb, if I'm talking to parents that have young kids and they're dealing with their own loans, is don't let your children borrow more than what they'll earn in the first year after they graduate. So if your child wants to be a teacher, that's cool. But what's the average teacher salary in your state? I don't know, $42,000 a year. Don't borrow more than $42,000 a year. Even if you're going to get public service loan forgiveness, don't do it, because you run two risks too. One is, like we said, could it go away? Maybe, unlikely. But part two is, if you pay off all your loans or pay more than the value of it, like, what was the point? Right? You're not going to get that loan
exactly.
forgiveness,
Mm,
right? But you also want you to be manageable. Like, you don't want your 4 years of college to like burden you for 20 years. Like, that's not what
mm,
you want. So borrow a reasonable amount. It could still be a good investment. If you start borrowing up to like 80,000 or more, ooh, you're running into the potential for financial heartache. And that's what I hate to see. And I really hate to see it in the social work space. One of my controversial videos online, and you might have seen it, is the value of a master's degree. Because I know so many teachers and social workers, they get the master's degree, right? But
mm.
the master's degree is expensive.
Yes, it is.
And it's silly to me that some states require it, which I just want to like, they're just fleecing you guys. Like, like it's just, it hurts me. Go to a state that doesn't require it, because the ROI of that master's degree is iffy. And you're really forcing yourself to be in that public service loan forgiveness ballpark and need it to last for 10 years. But I'm sure you've covered this before. The burnout rate is so high.
Yeah.
And like, it's a hard job. So that's a long time. And so it's like, please, 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 like, let's make smart decisions beforehand. So you're not like just pulling out your hair afterwards trying to, service this, debt that you've taken out.
Right. Well, for social work, like the kind of like I want to say the bare minimum, because in where I live in Delaware, you could work and have a bachelor's in social work. But a lot of people, the bare minimum is a master's degree, and then I give it up to my colleagues who go get a doctorate degree. Or like, and it's like the just from a financial aspect, it was like more loans on top of that, and it's like, you know try to reconsolidate whatever you could do to, if there's a
And that's it.
possibility.
And the hard part I see on the other side is that you become trapped so financially. And I don't even know if you're being your best self as someone trying to help others and in the social work field, because of all the financial burden you're facing. And if you're rolling through burnout because you don't have a choice, because you have to work here for another 10 years to pay off another degree or whatever it is, like, that's tough. And then, I mean, some people do it because I don't know in social work, but you got government jobs and government pensions and different
Mm,
retirement plans, but they're cutting that stuff. Like, there's
mm,
no security, there's no safety. So again, like, you got to protect yourself up front, and be a little financially savvier and literate of what you're getting into up front, so that you can be more effective as a human in your whole life
right.
after.
No, I totally get it, and it's a lot that's been happening, a lot that happens, and it's to be continued because we don't know what the administration's going to do, being just unpredictable and just and the unpredictability is causing a lot of mayhem right now. So it's I'm like, dude, you're messing up my portfolio, my stocks. Come on, get it together. Hot mess Cheeto man in the office. um, so there's a lot of great info you've given, and appreciate it. For social workers who got parents like myself, teenager, what I give myself an example. Like my kid's a sophomore right now. How, as a parent, how can I prepare for me, like financially, for him? Like we've been having conversations of like what he wants to major in. He has an idea now. He's even thinking about himself, like, and doing his own research about college and afterwards, like just money wise, he could potentially make out of school. Is it even worth it? Like maybe having you talked about a backup plan, major, and kind of look into that, and doing research about making money after school. So, any advice?
Yeah. So number one, like I said, is be transparent about your finances as a parent. So I think we all know our kids learn through observation. So share with them, hey, this is my student loans. This is what I got. This is what it's going to cost. Also, if they're a sophomore, they should already know how much is saved for college, whether that's zero, $500, whatever it is. They need to know that so that as they're researching schools and thinking about it, they're like, it's all on me. Or, like, this is what we got. And they're not like under the assumption, because like I see it all the time and it's really sad. It breaks my heart. These kids apply to school, they've done the whole process, they get accepted, and then the parents like are like, oh my God, I didn't know it was going to be $36,000 a year. And nobody had the conversation until the letter came. And then it's like, oh, and breaking hearts and tears and all that stuff can be saved by early, transparent conversations. Part two is give the kids a reality check on what salaries are and what they're going to earn. Show them the website Glassdoor. Show them what they want to do and just tell them to start typing in stuff, because when you talk to kids, you're like, hey, how much do you expect to earn when you get your college degree? And they're like $150,000 a year. And, like they don't have a real sense of what starting salaries are. It's like, you know what? After 20 years experience and you become the director, yeah, you'll make $150,000 a year, but they don't realize the starting pay is
Mm,
$45,000 a year. And then maybe after 5 years, you're going to be at 60. And like, what does that look like for their monthly budget? So when they're looking, and then we're talking about student loan payments, right? You're like, excuse me, they're like, hey, your monthly payment's $300 a month, but your take home pay is $3,000 a month. Like, how are you feeling about this all of a sudden? Like, you got to help them kind of connect those dots, because when I talk to a lot of high school classes, they do have an inflated sense of earnings. Everyone talks about like late career earnings, like your earning potential. Like that's cool and all. Like, yes, you can make $100,000 in a lot of jobs anywhere, but no, I don't really think there's any jobs that start there when you're 22, right? We're all starting at the bottom. We're all there, and so there's a disconnect for
mm,
many people. Teach them that disconnect, help them get out there and understand what they're going to earn. And then, you know what? Remember, like there's college is always available. So maybe community college is a path, maybe working is a path. You could always go to college. They will always take your money, promise you. You can go at 28, you can go at 30. The other thing is though, is that they don't know, but they do think college is the right track. Go general, business administration, communications, and then go cheap, right? So if you don't know what you want to do, if you don't have a specific reason that you're not going to med school, you're not wanting this specific track, go cheap and go general. because you're really now just trying to get that degree to say I have a degree.
Mhm.
And, I don't necessarily want to take away anyone's experience, but like you can still have a great experience at a lot of places.
Nah, no, that's good advice. Where can people reach out to you?
Absolutely. So if you want anything related to education and money, so, like I said, financial aid, student loans, financial literacy 101, you can find us at thecollegeinvestor.com. And of course, we're on all the social platforms at The College Investor. We have our podcast, The College Investor Audio Show, and all the video stuff as well, TikTok, YouTube, College Investor. So wherever you like to listen, watch, read, we're there for you.
Cool, awesome stuff. Robert, I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Bass. This has been fun. I hope it helps some people navigate their student loans in this time of uncertainty.
Absolutely.